Is Culture Brain's Flying Warriors the holy grail of martial arts curios, or a dusty footnote squeezed between Ninja Gaiden 2 and that unloved copy of Karate Champ your cousin pawned off on you? Rhetorical, naturally the answer is yes to both, plus an extra scoop of what the heck. From afar, it masquerades as a stock 8-bit brawler. Punch, kick, platform, repeat. Then it unveils a henshin sequence worthy of a Sailor Moon budget episode, pivots to bullseye-driven duels where you must jab specific glowing body parts, and tops it off with menu-based RPG boss battles. Underappreciated? Absolutely. Overhyped? Only if you lived inside a Nintendo Power mail-away flyer. Fundamental? Maybe not, yet this cartridge shifts genres more often than Netflix rotates thumbnails at 2 AM, and that alone earns it a fresh, unrushed appraisal. We already know the Power Glove won't help here, don't play coy. Historical context: by 1991, the Nintendo Entertainment System was closer to curtain call than opening night. Super Mario Bros. 3 had already rewritten expectations for home console scope. Sega's Genesis was trash-talking 8-bit survivors with blast processing, and Street Fighter 2 was weeks from detonating a coin-op revolution. In that crowded, transitional moment, Culture Brain USA slipped Flying Warriors onto North American shelves. Culture Brain itself was a studio with an almost mythic outsider energy. The Japanese parent company, formerly Nihon Game, had dabbled in pachinko software before pivoting to Famicom development, and its inaugural martial arts franchise, Hiryu no Ken, built a modest cult abroad. The first localized installment, Flying Dragon: The Secret Scroll, 1989, introduced players to flaxen-haired Shorinji Kempo prodigy Rick Stalker, and a flow of gameplay shifts more abrupt than mood swings at an 8th grade dance. Yet it was still small potatoes beside Capcom and Konami titans. Enter February 1991. Culture Brain USA needed something flashier than a vanilla sequel, so it fused the Famicom's Hiryu no Ken 2, Dragon no Tsubasa, core side-scrolling campaign, with select systems from Hiryu no Ken III, 5 Nin no Ryu Senshi, party members, power meter, armor transformations. Sprinkling in a new handful of English market cutscenes, the alchemy emerged as Flying Warriors. Box art showcased Rick in silver mask, and Sentai-grade pauldrons, leaning on lightning fonts that screamed radical in the most 1991 way possible. I first encountered it at XP Arcade in Albany, New York, not in a dedicated cabinet, there never was one, but via the store's try before you buy NES station. In that era, a rental's worth hinged on magazine spreads and playground whisper networks. Flying Warriors had neither. Still, its manual teased 5 mystical dragmas, ornate talisman fragments that practically begged to be scribbled into a trapper keeper. When you are 12 and still high on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, a promise of martial arts heroes fusing magic and mech suits, is a siren song. Cue a weekend rental, a Cheeto-stained controller, and a late fee that my parents still reference when I propose just one more retro purchase. Culturally, Flying Warriors straddled 2 converging trends. First, the late 80s explosion of shonen manga and tokusatsu television meant American kids were increasingly primed for masked warriors and elemental attack names shouted in mid-air. Second, experimental hybrids were blossoming on NES hardware. Blaster Master Splice platforming with tank exploration, Guardian Legend mixed shmup corridors with top-down action, and Battletoads tried, well, everything, often sadistically. In that light, Culture Brain's effort to meld 4 different playstyles into a single cartridge wasn't outlandish. It was zeitgeist, yet the release still landed as an asterisk in retail circulars. Why? 2 big reasons. Lack of marketing muscle, no serial promos, no tie-in cartoon, barely a 2-page Nintendo Power strategy blurb buried behind Mega Man 4 maps, and the timing of a hardware transition. If you were a mall rat in 91 clutching allowance money, the Genesis kiosk screaming Sonic's Parallax might seduce you before a quiet NS box whose hero looks suspiciously like He-Man's distant cousin, but history often rewards weirdness retrospectively, and that's why we're here. Mechanics Culture Brain doesn't so much design a game as curate a genre buffet, and Flying Warriors is the all-you-can-eat sampler. At any moment, you may find yourself in one of 4 modes. Side-scrolling beat-em-up platforming. Rick, or another party member once recruited, jogs through scrollable stages. Forests, temples, even a New York subway decked out with robotic muggers. Punches, kicks, and the signature Hiryu no Ken flying kick serve as bread and butter. Platforming physics skew floaty, true to late NES precedent, so clearing pillar jumps often feels like steering a hovercraft in a kung fu wig. Spot target duels. When two martial artists clash, the camera zooms, life bars bookend the screen, and tiny colored circles, the marks, flicker atop elbows, shins, or brows. Striking an opponent's mark unleashes critical damage. Failing to block yours invites instant payback. Think Punch-Out's pattern reading meets Simon Says on turbo mode. This mark gimmick is so integral that Japanese manuals call it the Tobikomi system, literally insert attack. RPG command, boss battles, facing demonic big bads, gargantuan mudmen, gargoyle kings, cobra-headed sorcerers, real-time action halts, menus pop, fight, defend, magic, item. It's like Ryu pausing a Shoryuken to open an Earthbound dialogue tree. Strategy matters. Spamming fireballs drains your power meter. Forgetting to guard during an enemy's charged strike means eating a multi-sprite explosion straight to the face. Tournament mode. Hidden behind a title screen select press, it functions as an independent fighter. Up to 8 human entrants pass the controller round robin. Only 3 combatants are selectable, Rick, Hayato, and Mary. But at age 12, that felt like a homebrew Street Fighter 2 demo. The AI reads inputs shamelessly, but the bragging rights of landing a flawless mark combo was its own sugar rush. Threading everything is the transformation system, our absurd through line. At any point during regular action, or at story-defined beats and duels, you can open the pause menu and choose transform. Cue a 2-second sprite theater. Rick sheds civilian GI, adopts shimmering silver armor, and looses a cape that would make Magneto jealous. Subsequent heroes follow suit, each rocking distinct color palettes. Hayato's cobalt, Mary's magenta, Greg's emerald, Jimmy's gold. While armored, attacks hit harder, defense spikes, and the power meter becomes a shared spell pool. Casting Aura Blast, full screen nuke, devours that resource like a first-gen Game Boy chewing through AAs during a Tetris marathon, so you weigh risk versus spectacle with every button press. Let's drill deeper into the spot target duels, because this mechanic owns more head rent in my brain than the Konami code. Marks appear randomly, but actually follow a seated table, which speedrunners now memorize like Gregorian chants. Land an A-button strike in the correct direction within about 12 frames, and you're rewarded with a high-pitched ding, dopamine injection. Miss, and your sprite endures an enemy animation that reads karate chop to sternum with bone crunch SFX. Blocking when your own mark flashes is essential. Think Dark Souls parry frames, 8-bit edition. The result, fights feel less like button mashing and more like micro-rhythm games disguised as martial arts cinema. Outside duels, the side-scrolling stretches scatter secrets in plain sight. Press up at innocuous walls to reveal hidden rooms packed with gold, magic water, or Sword of Fire buffs. Raise your hand if you discovered these only because you were spamming up to see if jumping would cancel lag. Guilty. Environmental hazards also escalate. Later stages toss platforms that crumble beneath your sandals, acid droplets with unforgiving hitboxes, and bat swarms that behave like 8-bit paparazzi. Audio deserves special mention. Composer Akinori Sawa whips up heroic leitmotifs leaning on square wave brass. They're no Mega Man 2 earworms, but the transformation jingle still sneaks into my showerhead concerts. Sound effects pack satisfying thwacks, and the low fidelity roar when bosses appear sells stakes better than the translation ever could. Speaking of which, the script reads like Journey to the West went through 3 rounds of fax machine translation, but that only amplifies the charm. The evil forces of Demonix plan dominate the world. We love to see it. Finally, the password system is a galaxy unto itself. Basic save strings and code location, XP level talisman pieces. Yet Culture Brain also snuck in vanity phrases. Typing music opens a sound test. End shows the finale. 888 launches a sprite viewer, and for the impatient, the megacode ZL14 CB88 CCCB warp pipes you straight to the final showdown fully stocked, a playground legend we dubbed the Mandara Skip. The studio apparently missed the memo on checksum locks. Good for us. Legacy and influence, Flying Warriors never charted million-seller lists, but its design DNA proved surprisingly sticky. Culture Brain recycled the spot target duel in Super Chinese World 2 on Super Famicom, and its N64 revival Flying Dragon transformed the henshin armor into full 3D mid-match swaps, years before Soul Calibur made costume breaks a gimmick. Meanwhile, modern manga-to-game adaptations, from Naruto, Ultimate Ninja to My Hero 1's Justice, quietly echo the bullseye timing minigames. Coincidence or cosmic handshake? I choose cosmic. Collectors now rank Flying Warriors in the mid-tier Grail echelon, pricier than black box commons, but nowhere near Little Samson Stratosphere. Complete in-box copies hover around triple digits, thanks largely to low North American print runs and that luscious metallic box sheen. Speedrunners carve sub-31 minute any percent records by abusing perfect mark cycles and preloading hitboxes via the 888 character viewer. An esoteric flex, sure, but evidence of a niche community still tinkering under the hood. In academic circles, yes, game studies grad students are wild. The title occasionally surfaces when discussing pre-God of War genre hybridity, proof that early consoles birthed multi-system experiments before Metroidvania became a brand. Indie darlings such as The Messenger and Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon owe partial thanks to Culture Brain's willingness to say, what if our platformer just paused and became an RPG boss? Genre fluidity walked here before it ran elsewhere. Why then did the game slip into cult obscurity instead of mainstream greatness? Timing is everything. By 91, NES owners had thicker catalogs than their parents' vinyl shelves, and bigger fish. Super Mario World on SNES, Sonic, soon Street Fighter II, commanded attention. Marketing was minimal, without cartoons, breakfast cereals, or robust print ads. Flying Warriors became shelf filler for many retailers. Finally, its mashup nature, while compelling, lacked the razor-sharp focus players expected. A game that dabbles in 4 subgenres risks never perfecting any single one, and critics of the day complained about difficulty spikes and the learning curve of the mark system. Novelty alone couldn't carry it past the incoming 16-bit tide. Even so, the game's presence lingers. Any retro convention worth its salt hosts at least one CRT, where a diehard showcases the transformation jingle. Twitch retro blocks occasionally wheel it out for obscure gem theme nights, and YouTubers doing NES deep cuts inevitably cross paths with Rick Stalker's cape. In short, obscurity hasn't translated to oblivion. Closing paragraph plus score. So, museum curiosity or essential artifact? Spin kick the verdict right here. Flying Warriors is less polished diamond, more shimmering quartz, flawed, fascinating, and light-catching at the proper angle. Few NES carts dare to juggle platforming, rhythm duel precision, JRPG menus, password Easter eggs, and a full-blown Sentai cosplay engine. Collision detection occasionally wobbles like a jello mold on roller blades, and the translation's English could launch 1,000 memes. But when Rick activates that silver armor, channels the Mandara talisman, and vaporizes a demon sprite with Aura Blast, the game plants a genre-bending fist bump right in your nostalgia cortex. My final word? 7.8 out of 10. Not the slickest dragon in the dojo, yet a fearless flyer that earns its wingspan.